Whiskey Neat is brought to you in part by Glenfiddich and William Grant & Sons. Today, Glenfiddich, the world's most awarded single malt Scotch whiskey, challenges conventions once again as it reimagines celebrations across the world with Grand Cru. An exclusive expression that's been matured for 23 years and elegantly finished in rare French cuvee oak casks, it fuses together the finest flavors from Scotland and France to create a true taste of luxury to be enjoyed with others. Pick up a bottle of Glenfiddich's award-winning single malt line today, almost anywhere.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Whiskey Neat, spirited conversations with interesting people. I am your host, Christopher Hart. And as promised, this week I sit down with Outlander's Sam Heughan. I had heard he's a whiskey fan. I didn't realize the scope of that. He is a huge whiskey fan, so much so that he has started his own whiskey brand, Sassenach Spirits, that debuts this month, January, in the U.S. I'm very excited to hear. I'm very excited to try. I can't wait for it to hit Texas, and I'm going to do everything I can to help the guy get it in. So let's get into today's ad reads, the whole reason why we're here. Bruichladdich. Bruichladdich is a sponsor this week, and Bruichladdich progressive Hebridean distillers since 1881. Their whiskey is 100% conceived, distilled, matured, and bottled only on Islay using 100% Scottish barley. One distillery with 3 single malt brands, the Bruichladdich whiskey range as unpeated, crafted using local barley and hand-selected casks to create a floral, elegant, and crisp flavor. Port Charlotte heavily peated range, and of course, fan favorite, Octomore, the most heavily peated series of whiskey, is a powerful demonstration of the art of distillation with unparalleled levels of peat. I'm a huge fan of Bruichladdich. I knew that he had a history with peat, and I thought, you know what? I love Bruichladdich. We drank Octomore on the show. The newest edition of Octomore, I couldn't have been a bigger fan. This week's also, as always, sponsored by Terlato Distell Artisan Spirits, leader in premium artisan products like Bunnahabhain, Deanston, Ledaig, Tobermory, Bains, Black Bottle, and of course, Scottish leader. I've always been a fan of Deanston. We talk a little bit about how Deanston just won Whiskey of the Year award from Ralphie, one of the most trusted reviewers anywhere, if not the most trusted reviewer. And so I was very excited to hear that. Whiskey Neat is also supported by the inspired spirits at Glass Rev Imports and Amrut Distilleries. Amrut crafts one of the most award-winning Indian single malts to the exacting standards of Scotch. Amrut Fusion also just received double gold blind and scored a jaw-dropping 96 points by judges at the Proof Awards. Amrut Single Malt Whisky is widely available across America and can be found almost everywhere in Texas. Go out and get a bottle today. I got to introduce Sam to my favorite recent Amrut expression, the Amrut Sherry. We've talked about it on the show. I'm telling you, if you are a Sherry fan or if you're a peat fan, Amrut does both extremely well. This week we also were sponsored by Glenfiddich and Balvenie. This is just a great opportunity. I couldn't have felt more lucky to be able to pull this off. So thank you, Sam, for an awesome episode. And without further ado, the one and only Sam Heughan. Cheers. Thanks so much for coming,
Christopher. Thank you for waiting for quite some time. We're in New Orleans in this convention center, and it's been a busy day, taking over 1,000 photographs with various fans, and it's been fantastic.
It's quite amazing. I've been a fan. I've watched the show, and I didn't realize the size of your fan base, the fervor and enthusiasm. I'm excited for you. I mean, does it ever become a blur?
Today it was a bit of a blur. I mean, you can still hear that, the convention is still going on, and obviously there are other shows here as well. But it's been a terrific. For people that don't know, we've been on the show now 6 years. We've just finished filming season 5, which is out next month in February, and it really has been a real roller coaster of, I hadn't really done an awful lot of big TV shows or small bit parts and films, so to get the show really was life-changing and has given me a lot of opportunities to do various things, from charity work to creating whiskey, or drinking whiskey, should I say.
And that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to have a sit down with you. First, I went ahead and poured you one early, and I know you probably deserve it. That's the 23 Grand Cru in front of you. I figured you could probably use
Can I
more.
drink that now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. I don't mind if I do. What a terrible whiskey to start with.
Yeah, the 23 Grand Cru. I don't know if you, I know you're a peat head, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
you're a big fan of Lafroig.
So I think when I went back to Scotland to start shooting Outlander, the TV show that I shoot on, and it's obviously was based in Scotland, and I kind of fell in love again with Scotland and really sort of rediscovered, the land that I come from. And I'd been living in London for 12 years, so hadn't really been a whiskey drinker until I went to London. So I went back to Scotland and have visited a lot of distilleries while working there, and really have fallen in love with our national drink. And yes, initially really got into Islay whiskies, the smoky, peaty ones.
Are you still a big fan? Are they still part of your repertoire? Are you more in the sherry realm? Like,
Can I say, what is it about getting old? But it might be that. I don't know. I don't know. Time has passed, and I'm beginning to fall towards, something sweeter
and softer,
less abrasive.
Sure.
However, there are the moments when you're out in the Highlands in Scotland and hiking, and you've been covered in rain, and you get home and you sit by the fire, and I think a peated whiskey is the only way to go.
Especially when it's cold outside.
Especially, and it doesn't have to be Scotland. You could be wherever. You could be in New York.
Sure, you could be in New Orleans.
You could be in New Orleans, and you just really fancy it. And there are some crazy peated whiskies. From the Octomore, which is like the strongest peated whiskey ever created, to like the lesser sort of new ones, like Kilchoman is a new one that in Islay that have been doing stuff recently. And
I think they've been around about 8 years.
Yeah, they're
like
pretty new, huh?
Pretty new.
And
yeah.
I think I might be wrong. You tell me. I think they're going to reopen Port Ellen, which was this.
That's correct. Yeah.
Old distillery on Islay that shut down years ago, and they're sort of. I think
they've only been doing floor maltings.
Yeah.
Right, and I know that Lafroig got. I think they said they got about 15% of the floor maltings from there, and But yeah, I hear they're reopening Port Ellen.
Kind of exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
I wanted to ask because I've told the story on the show quite a bit. I got into whiskey because of a girl I was dating. Her father was into whiskey. I didn't know much about whiskey, and it's great for keto, right? I know you're a health nut, but I was trying to.
It makes you thinner and happier.
Well, no carbs, no sodium, no fat.
Whiskey actually, yeah. Well, there's a reason we call it the water of life.
Absolutely. So I wanted to win him over, and I took over a bottle of scotch and for Thanksgiving one year, and I won him over and ended up marrying her, and that's her behind the camera over there.
What?
Almost we're in our 14th year right now.
Obviously was a good bottle of whiskey, or was it?
Lafroig 18.
Oh, really?
The old discontinued Lafroig. So I wanted to ask you, is there a special moment for you that got you into the spirit? Was it, I know you and Graham have done a lot together, Graham McTavish.
Yeah, that's true. That's really interesting. Honestly, when I first went to London, and I'd been living there a short time, and was possibly feeling a bit homesick, and one Christmas, and I went into a bar with an old Scottish friend of mine, and we decided to try a whiskey. And we actually had a Speyside. We had a Dalwhinnie, and it's still one of my favorites in that it just kind of reminded me of Scotland. And I don't know why, but that it just had so much tied up in it. Maybe it was because I was, feeling homesick, or it was that time of year and Christmas and the holidays. And but there was something about drinking this whiskey and smelling it and the memories that came back to me. And I think whiskey is very much tied up in the story and in emotional. It's a drink that you have an emotional reaction to. It's not just.
There's some
you don't get the same with
involved.
vodka, do you? You know, I mean, it's a great drink, but
sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a great drink, but
well,
I'm nothing. I'm all for barrel-aged spirits. I love a good rum. I love good whiskey. I started with Scotch. Scotch is where I began, and we shortly after we got married, we went and made a trip up there, and I think we'll be going back to Scotland next year as well. We're not from there, but the memories we had on Islay, we didn't know that the island is pretty much on a meter. And in America, we're so used to turning on lights and electricity anytime we wanted. Being on Isla, there was like an actual key you had to turn, and the first night we couldn't figure out how to turn the shower on, so we just slept in the cold.
No.
But it was this great moment, and on Isla, when the lights are at nighttime, it's nighttime.
Yeah.
Here in New Orleans or Houston, where I'm from, you could still, the city lights pretty much light everything up, and on Isla, it's just nature, it's just peace.
Everything,
and it's blacker than black.
You're so close to nature. Really Scotland is kind of a bit like that, and definitely the West Coast, where Isla's this small island off the west coast of Scotland, and it is you're subjected to the elements, and a lot of the stories that the distilleries talk about is that the casks are affected by the elements. The salt water, the rain. Whether or not that's true or not, I'm not so sure. I think it's a little bit of a myth. But having said that, if a barrel is sitting next to the sea for 12, 14, 20 years, of course it's going to have an effect, I think.
I agree completely. So. The part of what separates American whiskey from Scotch is the fact that your proof tends to drop because your barrels pull in outside moisture.
Yeah.
So if you're seaside, it makes sense that you may get some briny seaside notes, and that's where my love for Lafroig, Lagavulin, Ardbeg comes in.
Well, I agree, and I have to admit, I was quite vocal about my love of Lafroig for a long time, and I still am, and they invited me to their 200th anniversary where we tasted some amazing whiskey. One of my favorites, their 21 they had, and they had the master distiller there who, it was the last thing he'd laid down, and it really was a very special drink. I think Lafroig really does well when it's aged, when it's had some time to take out that fire. But a lot of the smokiness does come from the peat.
Sure.
They obviously, so in Scotland, people would dig peat, which is this earth that you then can put on the fire and burn, and it burns for a very, very long time, but puts off a lot of smoke. And what they do is they smoke their barley, which then gives it, this really strong, smoky flavor. But
I got to interrupt you here. I had no idea, and I'm so excited. I was like, I wonder how much of a whiskey nut he is. I'm so excited because I think I've got a game we can play.
Oh, excellent.
Okay, all right. So while we're drinking, I got a couple things I did bring the new edition of Octomore. I did bring some Indian whiskey. I don't know if you've had the sherry from Amrut.
I have had some Indian whiskey, and it is amazing. I couldn't tell you which one, but I had a 6-year-old Indian whiskey which tasted like it was a 25-year-old.
Amrut does a phenomenal job, and Paul John does as well. There's a lot of great whiskeys coming out of other places in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
Scotland will always be home. So
yeah.
I've got a couple questions, and I figured I'll ask you.
They're having a good time next door.
Can you hear it on the mic? A little bit? Not so bad? Okay, so I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
All right. Nothing too hard, but let's test your knowledge, and then let's get into Sassenach Spirits. I'd love to find out what you're doing there.
Okay.
So, starting off, oldest licensed distillery in the world. Is it in Scotland or Ireland, and what is it?
Are those the two choices? Scotland or Ireland?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oldest?
Well, first of all, I want to, give myself a disclaimer here. I knew nothing about whiskey and have been learning, but I'm going to make a guess here. So people have been distilling, for centuries, and very much in Scotland. I know, in particular, people would home distill until this act that came in, and I'm not even sure when that was, late 1700s, I probably
That's
think.
Correct, yeah. Oh my God, he's killing it.
And so, and there was a time of sort of prohibition almost, and people will then get licenses to distill. But yeah, so it was very popular. So the first licensed...
Still in operation today.
Still in operation. Wow.
Ireland or Scotland?
I don't want to say Ireland. I'm going to say Scotland.
It's in Ireland. It's Bushmills.
It is
Bushmills has been distilling whiskey since the 1600s.
Has it?
Don't get me wrong. I'd love for it to be
whatever.
Scotland.
A lot of the distilleries in Scotland have been distilling for longer. It's just that they maybe didn't get their license till later.
Right. That act didn't come out till much later.
Yeah. I went to a distillery recently. Can I even say? Yeah, I can say. Glenfiddich, which is this amazing distillery up in Inverness, and they are all renewable energy. They have wind power, solar panels, biomass, and they had a new make, obviously, the pure spirit that hasn't even been aged yet. And I have to say, it was delicious.
That's really hard to do. And if I'm a huge fan of Lagavulin, but Lagavulin new make it's very rough.
Really?
So for them to pull off tasty new make is an achievement for sure.
Well, something I found out is that the distiller there, he used to work at Oban, and I don't know if you know the Oban whiskey. It's one of my favorites. It's a Highland whiskey, and it is delicious. And it's on the West Coast, but it's this very clean spirit. It's very crisp. There's something about it. You just feel that it's not been messed with. There's nothing else in it, and it's just a very clean, clear spirit. And I think there's something there. It's something to do with the process and the way that they've been making it for many years.
Okay, so let's have another pour. I've got something I want to hear about Sassenach.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So you and let me see here. Let's start with. I'm going to do the Amrut. So I know you said you have kind of moved on from peaty a little bit. So I'm going to give you a touch of the Amrut.
Can I change glasses?
Yeah.
Okay. I have, to be honest, I went through, and I think everyone does, a stage of enjoying, Asian whiskey, and I think the Asian whiskey is incredible. But Indian too is something I've been experimenting with. But this is exciting. So this is the Amrut.
Amrut sherry. This is an intermediate sherry, so it's a bit higher proof. I believe it's 59%. Either way, it'll put some fire in your belly, warm you up for the cold New Orleans day.
Wow. Yeah. So that's cask strength.
Oh yeah. Cask strength. Tons of sherry. Yeah. I would say sip slowly.
So that's what I find fascinating. These hotter countries. That it does age quicker, and you get a lot more of the barrel in the actual spirit. And I think that's what's kind of interesting about Scotland, because it just takes longer for that to sort of the flavor and the character to seep into the spirit. And I think that's
there's some speculation over Texas whiskey is trying to much hotter here year round. And there's a ton of interaction with the barrel, right? It's getting a ton of barrel influence. I think there is something to be said by different styles, different areas. And Scotland's a much slower, longer process. And like you said, peat tends to die off a little bit the older it gets. And I'm a fan. Sassenach.
That is delicious, by the way.
I'm a huge fan. I've been talking about this for the past few months.
It's very strong in alcohol, so it really has that fire to it, but it's very smooth, it's very sweet. It's delicious. Wow. I don't think I would water that down. I would
just a touch,
just drink it.
So when your product's coming out? So excited.
Yes, thank you for asking. So the Sassenach is whiskey that we are releasing. I've been working on for over about a year and a half now. I've always, obviously, loved whiskey. It's been a part of my life since I've been young, but never really started drinking it till, as I said, I went to London. But wanted to create something that I really believed in, and had a lot of opportunities. I had a lot of distilleries sort of come and, they wanted to white label something. You basically put your name to a whiskey that they've already created, and you just say it's sort of, you're like an ambassador for that whiskey.
Sourcing it, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create something that, I financed, that I had a part of the process from, the mood boards and the design of the label to the bottle to the juice as well. So it's been a process, and obviously also, my main market really is the US and Canada. So your distribution and import system is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's been really challenging, but we're finally there, and we are releasing on the 25th of January, 2020.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S.,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this month we should expect a Sassenach release.
You should, yeah.
Can I ask who the importer is?
MHW.
Okay.
Is our main importer. We have our own license now, so I think that we can import our own spirits, because we would like to do other spirits as well as whiskey, but that's something else to talk about. But yeah, it has been a process. But yeah, we are sponsoring the BAFTA LA Burns Night on the 23rd of January in Los Angeles, which, if you don't know, is a big Scottish celebration of our famed Scottish poet.
Oh, I'm very familiar.
Well,
Burns Day is...
That's going to be, you toasting the haggis.
It's very much celebrated here, yeah.
So we're sponsoring that event, and that's kind of the sort of soft launch, and then we will be available for pre-orders from that point onwards.
Do you know so just to be clear, is there going to be a regular available SKU or item that's available, let's say, in Texas?
We currently have, I believe, 5 states. Obviously, every state has a different law, so we're in the process of, getting our license for each state and finding a distributor. And but we're doing really well, and we're adding more as each goes along. So we're doing a limited edition, 10,000 bottles, which isn't an awful lot.
No, it's very small.
It is very small.
For instance, Wild Turkey's limited editions are 30,000 bottles.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks. But we're already in the process of looking at a bigger release. It's more about just investment and finding investors, and also we would like to release in the Europe as well. So that's going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, I mean, we want it to be on people's shelves and in stores, and I'm excited.
I've got a lot of experience in this realm. And I would jump at the chance to just taste whatever you got going.
You will be one of the first people we go to then. I promise you that. Yeah, I'm excited.
I couldn't be more excited. For our whiskey festival, we started bottling rums, and I don't want to touch whiskey. We're way far off from that. I'd love to do some Armagnac, which we've talked about, but I'm excited. So this month we should expect it in the U.S.
Yeah. And it is. I can let you know. I mean, it's a blend. It's the reason for that is I wanted to create something unique. I wanted to create something that was maybe less expensive but high quality. Something unique, as I said, and smooth. I think obviously not everyone has tried whiskey before. We want to make something that's approachable, and but yet still has that sort of special, distinctive quality. And the tagline is unique spirits, obviously. So there's something slightly different about it, and it's a 46%, which is slightly stronger than a lot of your
80 proof. And
it is slightly stronger, but I think that's a really positive point about our whiskey. It has this as this whiskey does, this sort of mouthfeel that's kind of heavier. The alcohol is slightly weightier in your mouth. And to be honest, the blend I'm really, really happy with. It's delicious.
Oh my gosh, that's exciting. That was my next question, was the proof. I wondered if you were ever going to get into single barrel offerings as well. One of my favorite things that your country does, that our country struggles with, is single casks.
Yeah.
You've got Douglas Lang and the Signatory. Signatory makes some phenomenal. Every time I walk into Specs, which is the big store in our town or in our state, I can always grab an 18-year-old, 20-year-old Glenrothes sherry cask, first fill sherry butt, at cask strength, and it's a guaranteed winner every single time. So you got to have your regular offerings, but I would love to see some really special limited editions for you guys.
That's what we're trying to do. It's unique spirits, and each one we want to do something very special with. So yes, there will probably be a lot of limited edition things that we've just found that we just really love. So very much so, we want to go for things like that. But yeah, it's interesting you see that. It's funny, isn't it, how you find one bottle and you're like, that's so good.
It just knocks it out of the park for you, and you tend to kind of latch onto it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes with a memory. So yeah. Speaking of memories, beer.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that you played Hugh Tennant.
I did. Yes.
And Tennant's beer commercial, and every time when we went, we drank quite a bit
of Tennant.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations.
Have you dabbled in beer? Do you? I mean, besides a lager, have you tried America's craft movement? We'll make beer out of a boot if you give us enough doll hair. We can do it out of anything.
Hasn't America gone on really well? When I first came to America, probably oh my God, too long ago to now mention, probably 15 years ago, but your beer was terrible. You had all these light beers, and they were just awful. We didn't do much better, in the UK. We were sort of all, these warm ales. But the craft beer in America is incredible, and the same in the UK as well. It's really taken off, and yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, we're also talking about doing a beer as well. Maybe, I don't know. These are a lot of ideas, but yeah, American beers are fantastic. Really.
There's this is how crazy it's gotten. There's a great place in Houston that we brought a few cans with us today, and back at the Airbnb, and it's called Fruitcake with Friends. It's made with fruitcake. So I mean, we will do it out of anything and just push the envelope. So it's one thing I do love about our craft beer movement. But when it comes to whiskey, we're very pure. Just like the Scots, we prefer an unadulterated product.
We call it something I sort of grew up with. A wee half and half, a pint and a nip. It's a wee half a beer. So a small beer and a nip, a dram of whiskey, and there's something about that sort of, it's like when you go and have Japanese food and you have a little bit of sake and a little beer. There's something about, they sort of complement each other. Probably that's because Scottish people like to drink a lot, but it is a sort of tradition in Scotland that we have a half and half.
So I know we've got only a few more minutes with you. I wanted to talk about, first, I read that you're not actually a ginger.
No, you are.
No, well, hold on now. Listen,
well, the beard
we've only
is.
had 2 drinks.
Come
Let's
on.
not fight yet. The beard is for sure. The beard
every guy's beard is ginger in some way, isn't it?
But I heard you dye your hair for the show. To Jamie is a redhead, but you're more naturally a blonde.
Yeah, I'm sort of dark blonde, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, it was dyed for 2 years on the show, and eventually it just got destroyed. You know, my hair was just literally falling out and wouldn't even hold the color. It went purple. So we eventually had to wig me, and actually, so I wear a wig now, which is great because it means I can do other jobs as well.
Well, you're a little bit older in the show now too, so it kind of fits.
Yeah.
You're like, as you get older, your hair changes. You're
exactly
like a little aged, little golden. You know?
So I think I'm aging anyway, but the whiskey certainly helps.
So, okay, 2 last questions, and we'll let you get on your way.
I don't want to go. I'm happy to stay here. We haven't tried all of these yet.
Yeah. So, you got anything left in the glass? I did bring a dump glass if you wanted to.
Oh, I can.
If you couldn't
I
finish
can help
anything.
you out. What else have you got that looks really delicious? Can I say, so the Ardbeg I love.
Sure.
I feel like the king of the smoky whiskeys. If you want something that's like off the shelf, easy, is
The Octomore?
and no, not the Octomore. Oh my God, my brain is just gone. I've been here so long. What's it called?
Lefroy?
No.
King of the peated whiskies.
Oh my God. It's gone completely out of my mind.
Ardbeg.
No.
Bunnahabhain?
Lagavulin.
Lagavulin. Yeah.
A lot of the islanders, Lewis and Harris, you know, the north of Scotland, they all for some reason seem to love the peated whiskey as well. And that would be, you know, the Highlanders' choice, I think, or the Islanders' choice. They seem to all drink it. This, however, is like a rocket.
Yeah. You want something a bit more calm?
Let's try it. Come on.
Okay. So this is the new edition of Octomore.
Jeez.
I'll give you a touch.
Okay.
All
Wow,
right.
You're a bad man.
All right. It smells like campfire. It smells like the
Is
American
it wrong that I can't
Revolution.
even smell that? What's going on? I actually don't think it's that strong, but I haven't tasted it yet. Is that it?
I'm so in love with that. Yeah.
I
I'm in
love
with
it. You love that. That's amazing.
Cold weather, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a fire. You're in a wee cottage in Scotland on the coast, and it's raining outside, and the wind's coming in, and you're freezing cold, and you're sitting in front of the fire, and the smoke is coming down the chimney, and you're just covered. Your clothes are covered. That's what that smells like.
Yeah.
You just
And
stink.
we've said it smells like you've been sitting around a campfire all night, and the next day your clothes reek.
Yeah.
In the best possible way.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like a bad thing, but I
tell you what's really good as well from the Isle of Mull, Ledaig.
very big fan. They're sponsors of the show.
Oh, they are.
Yeah. Huge fan.
Ledaig. Love you guys. It's really good. It's really good. And actually, obviously not from Islay, so which is
Sure. Yeah, they do Tobermory. What do we say? Bunnahabhain, Bains, Black Bottle. Yeah, we do. Deanston just won Whiskey of the Year from Ralphie.
Which interesting segue into Outlander, the show we do. We actually shot in their warehouse, in their bonded warehouse, in season 2.
In Deanston?
In the Deanston distillery.
Wow.
So literally every half an hour, they'd have to let the crew out because you're breathing in these fumes, and it's like strong. It's
There's an ABV
delicious.
to it, yeah.
It's delicious, but I think everyone was getting slightly drunk. But but it's such a beautiful distillery. It's right next to where we shot a lot of season 1 and season 2. And it's a really beautiful part of the world, but a great distillery as well.
Yeah, so Deanston won Whiskey of the Year at 46%. So I agree with you. I think that little bump really pushes things over the top. It makes a difference,
especially as, a lot of whiskey drinkers, a lot of whiskey drinkers like to, they might put ice in there. I know the Asian market, they love to have it as a longer drink. So you need something slightly stronger just like to balance out if they're going to put some ice in there.
Well, I can't thank you enough for this. I know you've got a dinner to get to, but I would love.
I'd much rather stay here.
Oh, hey, listen. Hey, we're here all weekend. We're here all weekend. So that's a 21-year-old rum cask Glenfiddich.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
So there's no peat there. It's all
awful.
Sweetness. Yeah.
Yeah, terrible. What's the bottle over there that you've got covered up?
So I wasn't sure.
To hide that one from me.
I wasn't sure if you're an American fan, but this is bourbon from 1917, pre-World War II. So this was purchased at auction. And so I don't know if you're a bourbon fan.
Are you drinking it?
But I opened this with Brendan Schaub. I don't know if you know, he's a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
And a comedian. He's fantastic. But that is a old log cabin, 1917, before the laws went into effect on bourbon.
That is insane.
I had brought it just in case if we had time.
I think we probably have time just to try that little
pre-World War II.
If you were,
any chance I get to jump on something like this, I can't help myself.
I'm so excited to learn about bourbon. I tried a few and I buy it because of the bottle looks cool, and probably like a lot of people don't really know, and I think there's a whole market out there. But actually, going back to whiskey, American single malt is where it's at.
Yeah.
I think there's some really bad ones and some amazing single malts. I had a really fantastic one from Virginia recently, which was so good. And I think it's a market that is not as tightly regulated as the Scottish single malt whiskey.
It's not regulated at all. The category officially doesn't exist, yeah.
So therefore, I think that there's a great market there. And I think we'll see probably a lot. I don't know, you tell me. I think we'll see a lot more American single malts. And I think it's a really exciting market.
Well, let me do this. I've got one last pour here. I do have an American single malt that I want you to try.
Possibly the best TV show interview I've ever had.
Well, I appreciate the kind words.
From now on, I'm only ever going to do it like this.
Well, I think definitely having a pour after a day like you've had is this is tremendous. Out of Balcones. This is one of the oldest Texas distilleries. Now this is very strong, and I believe.
Look at the color of it. In the bottle.
They use 60-gallon barrels. Oh man, there's a lot of sweetness to that.
Do you even see charcoal in there? I feel like you could almost...
No, so they filter them out.
They do.
Yeah, so this is American single malt.
This is? Okay.
Very bold, and it's cask strength.
That's my jam.
That
is amazing. Wow. And there's like this weird, maybe it's the strength of it, there's this weird like citrus note when it first you taste it, and then it's just caramel and sugar, and
it's a big sugar bomb.
Yeah, but like there's this weird thing when you first take it. Maybe that's just my palate is so like jet.
Got a lot of orange peel.
Yeah,
it's like a sweetness.
Yeah, but amazing. Wow.
Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Let's
get a couple photos together and.
Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to send you a bottle of Sassenach, and maybe we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. And when you guys do launch in Texas, you've got my support. I'm happy to do whatever I can to help out.
It's an absolute
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. So yeah, Slanjava.
Woo.
Balcones' first ever year-round bourbon was an inspiration. It all had to work together. A blend of carefully selected ingredients, Texas-sized pot stills, and creative people determined to find the absolute best way to usher a new whiskey along. When you discover how it pairs with a meaningful moment, suddenly the feeling of drinking great whiskey becomes a whole lot more.